good afternoon, whatever the time is, wherever you are coming from. Very good to see everyone here. We're going to get settled in here and start talking about, hopefully, one of the more exciting topics of the week, the shift that we're seeing already starting to occur from generative AI to agentic, and what does that actually mean? What's it entail? And we've got, I think, just a fantastic group of people here. I'd love to, if it's okay, go down the line and do a quick intros of where you're coming from, and maybe start with Chris. How's that?
Sure. Chris Bedi, I'm the Chief Customer Officer at ServiceNow. For those of you who don't know ServiceNow, we started out as a workflow platform. I joined the company when we were about 800 million in revenue. We're now about 10 billion plus. We serve about 85–90% of the Fortune 500. Thank you for using ServiceNow. And recently, in the last year, really dove in headfirst into the world of agentic.
Thank you, Chris. In addition to being a happy customer of Chris's, I'm Katya Andresen. I'm Chief Digital and Analytics Officer of Cigna. We're a Fortune 15 health services company.
Fortune 12, though, I think.
I felt Fortune 12. I'm hedging.
Being
it's
humble.
been 12, 13. I don't want to be unlucky, 13. I'm hedging, but yeah. It was 12 last year.
Yeah.
So great to meet everyone. Rotem, the CEO of Wand AI. We are focusing on creating artificial workforces, which is the next generation of agentic platforms, on how we're able to help enterprises to move from human-made software to human users up to the point that we are creating software by AI for also AI users and human users together. Great to be here.
And I'm Umesh Sachdev, founder and CEO of Uniphore, a Marsh Capital portfolio company. We're an end-to-end enterprise AI platform. We work with about 2,000 customers around the world, 300 of which are in the Fortune 500 club. We're growing really well.
And I'm Wes Nichols, one of the partners here at March. I am a recovering entrepreneur. So I was talking about this man's travel, and it brought up all kinds of PTSD just backstage. I most recently was running a company called Market Share, which is a predictive analytics software company, very, very early to the days of selling enterprise solutions at the AI level. But I think what we're seeing is a big shift happening from, I'd say, POC or proof of concept initiatives to scale solutions. We're seeing this notion of AI and agentic really starting to congeal into something that's mission critical for companies. And I talked about this in this panel last year, and I think this is a fun opportunity to revisit it a year later to say, how are we doing? What's advanced? What's moved forward? What's slowing us down? And I don't know. Maybe start with a client here. Katya, I'd love to understand we've known each other from your Capital One days, and you've always been on the front edge, leading edge of this. How are you driving adoption at such a big company, and what's working, and how do you improve business impact, and all the normal things that you're challenged with your everyday job?
Yeah. I mean, I left, I was at Capital One, which is where I did meet you, and I left banking about 3.5 years ago because it just seemed like healthcare is in such need of innovation. And so I feel a tremendous sense of urgency at getting things like all the amazing capabilities of AI in place at our enterprise, because healthcare is broken. And we need to heal the system, and that requires us to work in different ways. So we're thinking about adoption of AI in 3 ways. The first is, how can it make healthcare more efficient? There's a lot of manual process. There's a lot of incredible complexity in healthcare, and AI allows us to bring ease, speed, and quality to a lot of what we do. And so we have applied that to our back office, to our operations, to a lot of our customer channels with great success, and that's where about 80% of our focus is. The next sort of category is, how can AI strengthen our existing business models? And so in that category, we've done really interesting things like study how across thousands and thousands of phone calls, you can influence someone's choices in a positive way for their health, and then pull that analysis into AI-powered experiences that are personalized to an N of 1 to begin to influence people's choices for the better. So that's an example of something And another example of the use of AI is making healthcare make sense, which everyone needs. And then last, we have a small investments in things that we think would really change the game in healthcare. For all categories, we are very focused on value and making sure that we're not letting 1,000 flowers bloom. We only have so much capacity, and making sure every use case drives one of the outcomes I just described. And then we balance it with risk. I've never felt such cognitive dissonance in my entire career. Like, I'm so excited and simultaneously terrified about the uses of AI in a highly regulated industry like healthcare. And so we have to be so careful of bias in terms of the data that informs these models, but also how the models perform. And so we're moving very, very cautiously, and then we have a red line on anything that gets into coverage or medical choices.
Diagnostics, things.
No diagnostics.
So when you sit down in front of the board or the CFO and you're having to make the business case, what metrics are they looking for?
Funny you should say that, because I just had to present to our board last week.
Sorry.
And
I know that.
and so we actually have a dashboard. In addition to all the ways we monitor risk, we monitor value. And on the efficiency side, we actually look at cost to take out. So how much efficiency have we gained? How much lower is our OpEx run rate? And how do we tie that, in a direct causal relationship to things we've done with the AI? So that is, a 3-to-1 hurdle rate. We have to be getting $3 out for every dollar we invest, and it has to be taken out. Not one of these business cases that everyone makes, and then you never revisit it, and it may or may not be successful. And then with the cases that are more about reducing cost of goods sold or revenue or experimentation, those are treated a little differently. And we are less about efficiency and more about performance of, say, something like total cost of care going down or other metrics. But we measure absolutely everything. And we don't scale something until we can prove the value.
That's great. Thank you. Chris, I'd love to hear your point of view on that too, if you don't mind. You're dealing with this across hundreds of clients and helping drive this adoption and make the business case. Are you seeing some real shifts taking place with Agentic right now, or is it
Sure.
early on?
I think with Agentic, if I were just to back up for a second, across most enterprises, they've been using AI for a while. Whether it was machine learning-based AI, starting with generative AI a few years ago, and I think that was delivering a lot of incremental outcomes. I think what's different about Agentic, because it's more autonomous, because it can reason on its own, Agentic agents can all talk to each other, the promise of delivering exponential outcomes is actually here. And I think that's why everyone is so enamored with Agentic, has an AI agenda like the one that you just talked about. And when I think about value, certainly cost takeout or productivity is a big focus across a lot of sectors, almost every single one. But in addition to those value measures, and by the way, I applaud you for actually having a value dashboard. Most enterprises don't, right? And I think they're actually squandering the value as a result. But in addition to the productivity measures, I'm seeing speed emerge as a measure, increasing the speed at which an enterprise operates. And speed is a competitive advantage, right? Faster to get a product out, faster to get the latest ad copy out, faster to resolve a customer's issue. So speed, but I think also with Agentic, there's the promise of effectiveness. How do you increase? It could be the same cost structure and maybe even the same speed, but if you can increase the effectiveness of every single persona, whether it's a recruiter, a salesperson, a software engineer, a product manager, that will start to deliver exponential outcomes, I think, for every single enterprise. So I think with most tech, we've had productivity as a measure, we've had cost takeout as a measure, we've had speed probably also as a measure. I think what Agentic also gives us is effectiveness, which I do think is exciting.
Yeah, and hopefully innovation is part of that. I mean, that we can see further innovation on product and service delivery and things like that, so as opposed to just taking cost out.
Yeah, the speed at which a company can evolve a new product. I work with life sciences companies. They're using this in drug discovery. Software companies are obviously using this, right, to churn out more and more code faster and of higher quality. I'm sure in your business you're using it to deliver speed. So yeah, innovation at whatever the core product is, for sure.
That's great. Now, we've been having a front row seat to my friend Umesh's company and the rocket ship. Can you talk, I know you're just on CNBC talking about what you've been building. Can you talk a little bit about this topic and, how, we both have been dealing with very early stages of selling in technology into companies that aren't ready for it. And then it becomes a disadvantage if they don't have it. Like, where are we at in that cycle?
Well, I'm going to pick up from both Katya and Chris. And I love one thing you said about making healthcare more explainable to people.
Right.
Because some of those things are truly what we have an opportunity with agentic AI in firms. And working with some of the largest enterprises, one comes to realize that people who are not familiar with the topic, they think agentic AI will replace the SaaS apps of the past, whereas this is about a full architecture. Unless these AI models are grounded on the company's own data and knowledge, they do funny things which are called hallucination. And for healthcare businesses or financial businesses which are highly regulated, that's unacceptable. And which is why, what Katya said, that they don't scale things unless they're very confident on some of these. So AI is a complete architecture, and that's one thing that's beginning to be well understood. And the architecture, at least the way Uniphore describes it, is a 4-layer cake. There's a data layer where the enterprise stores its data. You can store it in places like Databricks or Snowflake or something else. There's the knowledge layer where GenAI now can convert the data into a searchable format, a format that LLMs can learn from. And there's a model layer. Enterprises now have choices. You can use models like OpenAI, but now you have hundreds of LLMs. You have DeepSeek and you have Llama, which are open source, and you have proprietary models. So there are choices of models, and that's getting commoditized. And then there's this AI agents, which can now be told to do new things and do new tasks. So I often like to make this real, and I want to pick an example of, just like the healthcare industry, there's another one that we work with, where explaining that industry's function to consumers is one of the hardest things. It's called telecom. How many in this room can read your telecom bill and explain to me why you were charged what you were charged? Very few. Because unlike a bank statement which says credit, debit, total, the telecom bill comes from Mars. Nobody can understand it. One of our customers, out of 26,000 people in their customer service, 5,000 on any given day are just picking up the phone and answering the question, what's in my bill? Why do I see this $2? Why? This wasn't there last month. 5,000. And so a great use case of agentic AI, we work very closely with the CIO's team in this case, use 350 million bills with corresponding accounting data, product promotion data, everything that went into creating those historic bills. And we fine-tuned a small language model, which we call the idiot savant type strategy. We made this model a savant in the billing department of this telecom company and use weights to say you're an idiot about everything else. So do not even attempt to answer a question which is not related to billing, because that's when you will hallucinate. But here's everything you need to know about how this company does billing. And now create an agentic workflow. So now if a consumer is coming through the branch or the call center or the website or any channel asking, why do I see this $2? Which I did not see last month. This agentic AI workflow triggers itself and is able to not only answer that question, but if you've been a loyal customer of the telecom company, and by the way, as a one-time gesture, it has to be reversed, the AI agent can do that. Now, as a result, this company had predictive software running billing. They had analytics software. They had Copilot software for call center agent. So that entire leg of legacy software plus organization structure is being replaced by agentic AI. But what took us to get there was this architecture approach, starting with their data and carefully getting them into production. And these are examples that are beginning to emerge, customer after customer. And I think fast forward, if we are able to squint and see what happens 3 years from now, our companies will feel very different from inside out.
But you've had to build this stack yourself.
So, what Uniphore does for its customers is, like I said, in each of these layer cakes, if you see hundreds of companies exist, big or small, solving the data problem, solving the model problem, what our customers cared about is they didn't want the nightmare of working with 15 vendors and trying to stitch the solution, because this is one coherent layer. And so Uniphore's platform brings it all together. We connect their data to their knowledge, to their models, and allow them to build new agents or orchestrate third-party agents. And that's the innovation that's helping our customers realize this dream of Gen AI and Agentic AI in an accelerated way.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. And I think at a much earlier stage of a business, but very exciting, is Wand AI. And my friend Yit Applebaum called from Israel one day and said, "You've got to meet Rotem. This is the most amazing company and what they're doing." And we become friends through this process, and I just really have enjoyed getting to know you. Would you mind explaining more of what you're doing? You've got a different take on it, which is why we wanted you here. I mean, one is, we don't need humans.
Sure. So first of all, let's even go one step back from looking at what the adoptions looks like, and explain a bit about how we are looking at autonomy of AI in different places and levels of autonomy. So what we are seeing a lot in enterprises today is what I call level 1 autonomy. Take legacy software and bringing and injecting AI in order to help making them more efficient for the users that are using those systems. Level 2 is, okay, let's take all those software, centralize them together into one platform. We are seeing copilots and other solutions trying to do that, bringing everything together. Still, humans are highly active in this process. AI is semi-active or passive in level 2. Level 3 is let's automate complete processes, investments processes, decision-making processes in healthcare and insurance, in every other industry we are thinking about, and automate all those parts in a way that agents are taking charge of everything and humans are passive in that way. So agents are able to escalate problems to humans if they are not certain about how to answer specific questions. Level 4 is how we're able to take complete divisions or departments and automate them using agents. It requires a more sophisticated technologies that enables agents to go and really take the decisions humans are taking today in a larger, more vague context, not necessarily very, very clear specific use case or workflow. And level 5, as we are defining it, is let's automate complete companies. Let's build companies that are built only from AI agents without humans in the loop. And if we are looking at what happened till today, both from technology perspective and from change management perspective and trust perspective, is mostly level 1, and we are seeing actually a beginning of adoption at level 2 and level 3 in enterprises today. As a company today, we are also working on level 4 very early on with some customers. So automating complete R&D department, automating complete customer success departments, etc. And level 5 is kind of a competition to the current enterprises on how to run all those processes autonomously. So this is actually how we are defining the levels of autonomy in AI. And a lot of people I'm speaking with are thinking that autonomy level 5, so fully autonomous companies in investments, in legal, in insurance, are going to take decades. And I will say that I believe that next year, in 2026, we'll see the first autonomous companies in specific fields starting to emerge and be able to compete with the human companies that are out there in thousands X lower costs, 1000X faster, much higher productivity, much better organization. And this is a real challenge that is going to be for the current enterprises and how they are able to compete with that. And the way is really to push the innovation all the time forward and to try to use agents in all level 2, 3, 4 a lot more than what we are seeing today. And do it very, very quickly, because those new companies, new types of companies, will be a huge challenge for the current enterprises. And other things about adoptions that I want to mention is one thing that we are seeing a lot of times, and actually there are also very interesting papers about it in that came like in the last 2-3 months is that a lot of time AI is better than AI plus humans in processes. And AI plus humans are better than humans without AI. So humans are bringing their bias because we are in the steering wheel eventually. We are bringing our bias on how a specific process needs to happen, and sometimes degrade the results of AI alone in this process. Actually, one very interesting one was in healthcare. And this is something that I think education is needed for the adoption and change management, to explain how AI needs to be used, what it's good at, what it's not good at, how we are combining humans and AI, because I do believe that in some cases humans and AI are better than only AI, if the human that is using AI is highly educated in how to do that. Because we are seeing a lot of cases today of humans plus AI much worse than AI alone. And of course, I believe everyone, if it's like people that build companies or large companies today, first of all, wants to make the operation as good as possible, which means to educate, and if it's still not working, so to give AI to take decisions.
Chris, I loved your point of view. Thank you. How do you take something like this and bring it to life with clients? And also, how much are you doing this on your own for your own company in addition?
I think the idea is quite provocative, of course, and one would have to agree that AI-first companies are going to do better than those that don't adopt it. That's why, if you look at the financial analysts, they're predicting $3 trillion plus of spend in the next 4 years on AI. $3 trillion plus. That's a big number. I think for the zero human AI-first company, it'd be interesting to see how that evolves. But I think AI alone and great models alone don't really, are an incomplete architecture. And a little bit of this is what Umesh was saying. It has to tie into the data fabric of your architecture. It has to be able to do something, so it has to have execution capabilities. Today we would call those scripts or integrations or workflows or whatever. And I do think it is going to be an evolution. Whether we ever get to the fully autonomous AI-only zero human company, I'm not sure how fast. But I would say in the enterprise, Agentic is moving forward, and it's moving forward at a faster and faster clip. And I would say it's probably not because of the models themselves. There I would agree with you. The rate of change is limited actually by organizational inertia in a lot of cases, legacy architectures, and the complexity of stitching them all together. And that's where I think platforms come into play that simplify it. And what organizations are really looking for is to say, how do I bring AI plus data plus workflows into a seamless architecture to be able to execute at scale? And I also think that the AI plus humans versus AI alone, I think the studies have all shown that it is AI plus humans. I don't know how it'll play out with the AI only, but what I would say, what I've seen in our global customer base is one thing that we haven't talked a little bit about, because humans need time to get used to a new paradigm. We've seen that through any technology shift, whether it was cloud or mobile. The results in the first couple of years, I was like, is it really that big of a deal? And then 10 years later, like, it changes everything. The experience the technology companies are giving the human in terms of being able to consume and work with AI, I think is a critical factor, and I don't think is getting enough attention.
That's right. Well, I think, obviously the brains are analog and the technology is digital, so we're always going to have some level of disconnect with adoption. Yeah. Katya, to that end, how do you drive, I've dealt with this personally, and I know you are too, and you are. How do you drive the change? Like, how do you actually get people excited about this and not be fearful of this? And I mean, it obviously is going to be an accelerant for people. But what's that look like?
And that is the question. Like, I think I agree with everything these smart panelists have said, and I would say the thing that always gets me is it's not the technology that's the hard part; it's the people. So, which is intrinsic to your question. So a few things. I think one, we have had to really focus on helping people experiment a bit, right? Like having our own safe instance of OpenAI at the company so people can play around with ChatGPT and different solutions. Because I don't think you understand it till you experiment with it. But helping people start with the right lens. So too many people at a company like mine say, wow, look at this cool thing. What can we do with it? Instead of, hey, these are the top business problems that we need to solve. Here's how that technology might allow us to approach that in a way that generates far more value. So that is always backwards. And so the first thing is to help people think about it the right way. I think the second one is to start small and let them be a part of the experiment. Because I don't think, back to my point about letting people play with it, I don't think you can understand it until you see it applied to an area and begin to prove out the value and then scale it. That's how you get people to change. When you're at a big company in corporate America like mine and people are running around saying you need change management, you know you're in trouble, right? Because if you've gone about something right and you've proven it out and there's small examples that start to build, then you don't need the change management quite as much. And then I think the third thing is, and this is the hardest part, to really get the full value of something like efficiency, you have to have people operate differently. And they have to be willing to reorganize their teams, change people's jobs. Maybe some people don't have jobs anymore. And that fear factor, that creates like incredible resistance in the system. And so you have to be incredibly thoughtful about that as well. And then Chris, you really got me thinking about, people, when you come at these challenges with people and their jobs changing and the organizational inertia you were talking about, I just don't think you can overestimate that. And so you have to come with facts, data, value. That's why we have a value dashboard. That's why we never scale anything that doesn't have proven value. That's why we include every person we're developing the technology for in the experiments. Because if we don't do all of that, people just aren't going to come along. And if they don't come along, AI is no match for like people who do not want change.
No, it's the old change the people or change the people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
if I can just mention something about that. So, I'm also in the advisory board of one of the largest consulting firms, and all the time we are discussing about change management. And you're right. The technology now, from maturity perspective, can do a lot more than what we are seeing in our organization. I think everyone agrees about it. That we can do a lot more, trillions of dollars probably as a complete economy, using the technology that is available now. But the change management takes time. People are afraid from the technology. People doesn't know how to use the technology. People scared about their job. People scared about trust. People scared about a lot of different things. And I think that this is actually another reason why sometimes people will go out of the loop, because it's very difficult for them, for us to change quickly. And I think we'll see two phases. One is people that and people that don't adopt AI will be replaced with people that will adopt AI.
I agree with
and then because of those changes as humanity that takes us time, eventually in a lot of places AI will replace people completely. So actually the transition, and if we won't be able to do this transition as humanity to use and adopt technology much, much, much faster, the ability to replace humanity with technology will be much faster. So we need to take care, also to remember that the fear, which is rational, that we have as humans, will just make us be replaced much faster by AI.
So if you're afraid, you should be even more afraid.
No, if you're afraid, you need to first of all adopt AI and learn how to use it in the right way in order to gain a bit more several more years.
We need force multiplier.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think about in the annual meeting this morning, we shared that we've now seen the first company in history to get to $100 million in less than a year. We had 3 of them in the past 2 years now. that have reached $100 million in ARR 1 year or 18 months. It's incredible. I mean, it's happening. It's here. And the company, and I look at it also from a national defense standpoint. If from my work with the military, if you've got, you've got people in the U.S. saying we're always going to have a human in the middle, but our adversaries do not believe in that, and our adversaries just enable AI to go. I mean, it's a knife to a gunfight. So it's an interesting challenge that business has as well in this. So how are you getting these companies to? I mean, you have what, hundreds of thousands of people using this software now, probably. I mean, you've got to drive the adoption. What does that look like? And where's the agentic piece change this?
Well, you spoke about not being envious about my travels. One of the things that I've consciously have been doing in the last 15, 18 months is I want to be very close to my customers at this point, because that's the only way I'm learning what's happening, how are they thinking, how are they changing, and allowing us to react to helping them with our product and architecture and platform. And if there's ever been a time in contemporary history where leadership mattered more, I can't remember it, because right now, we are going through such a big transition. Everything that's being said, it's not just a technology platform shift. It's how our organizations are going to evolve. And in the customers of Uniphore, where the mandate and the sponsorship is coming from the CEO or somebody high up in the C-suite, we are seeing dramatically different results in a shorter period of time when there's not. This is a moment where every CEO has to be very clear to their organization that we have no choice. The train has left the station. We are either going to be on it or not. And then different mechanisms I've seen work. Some CEOs are creating tiger teams, which are empowered small teams, which have the license to break through walls, and everyone in the company knows it has the sanction of the CEO. Mm-hmm. Some people are doing kill the company type of an approach. I know Salesforce is running some experiments with that, et cetera. But the bottom line is the mandate and the clarity needs to come from the top, and this is one of those moments. Speaking of objectives, one other observation I've had is, each time there's a cost takeout or efficiency, all those fears that you mentioned, Katya, and that you're seeing across the board are very real. Some of the CEOs that I'm talking to are beginning to talk about this framework, that what are we going to do with AI, agentic AI, Gen AI? Do we want to do the same with much less, and that's the efficiency play, or do we want to do a lot more with same? We work with some of the biggest retail companies on earth. We are beginning to find in areas like marketing, where you used to work to run campaigns. You used to work with agencies. Then a whole digital marketing team would segment your clients, run campaigns, come back with performance marketing dashboards, et cetera. Today, each of those steps, from generating a campaign to generating collateral to running the campaign to segmenting the customer and then showing performance and improving yourself, are AI agents. And so you're in a position to say, you can take out your marketing growth spend by 90%. And what's fascinating to me is that whenever CEOs come into the room and they hear this, not one so far in the retail industry has said, let's do it with 90% less. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them have said, then let's go for higher market share. And I think that sets the tone in the company. Yep. That sets excitement, that's enthusiasm, and gets adoption going. So like I said, the framework of leadership, the communication from leadership, and then really saying that, look, this is not so much about doing the same with less. We're going to outgrow our competition. We're going to break out from our industry because we will adopt agentic AI in a way that our competitors haven't. Mm-hmm. That's allowing teams to adopt this or embrace it in a more positive spin as opposed to fearful.
So I think it's creating unfair advantage, and that's
exactly
every business
right.
Should be looking for. Yeah, I think one example that comes to mind is that we live in obviously a weird time right now, and the media doesn't help things too much, and we've got a lot of Chicken Little effects about this, a lot of fear about it. McDonald's is a good example. McDonald's built the kiosks and AI into their customer experience. When you go to McDonald's now and you go to a counter, you can't order at the counter anymore. It's only at the kiosk. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's going to destroy jobs and it's going to be bad. Well, guess what? It actually increased the order sizes because people were not embarrassed to order more food to a kiosk. So it led to them hiring more people in the kitchen. You know, so there's always unintended consequences or unanticipated consequences. I'd love to hear what if you all think, are there some interesting ones you are expecting or that you're seeing, that anecdotes like that people realize, you know, it's not going to be as dramatic or as bad, or it will be much worse than we think it's going to be. You know, I'd love your points of view as we wrap things.
As a healthcare company, I'm worrying about how much McDonald's people are eating.
Yeah, healthcare, you've got some interesting challenges. We know it's not being used to do any denial service, so we know that.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear about that.
Yeah. No, I think one of the things I'm most excited about reminds me of what Umesh was talking about, which is surprising to me, which is that AI continues to shock me what it's good at and not good at and not good at. And you really only know through experimentation. But to the example you were giving, what I've been really delighted with is about this idea of making healthcare make sense, and the ability for it to be reasonably empathetic. In fact, sometimes more empathetic, because AI doesn't, you know, talk about itself, right, or roll its eyes, or, you know, try to not be an empathetic listener and try to fix things, right? AI kind of can have some good attributes in terms of empathy and meeting people where they are. And so what we're beginning to do is we're rolling out an app mid-year where you can take a picture of your doctor's bill and say, what is this? I don't understand it. Why did I get billed? Right? And it explains it. And then it'll say, hey, do you want us to file this for you? And you can say yes, and it'll tell you what information's missing and talk to you and everything like that. That's amazing, and it does it in a very friendly, easy way. And I am so surprised, right? Because I always thought of, to your point, Umesh, AI is good at taking out, I don't know, rote work, right? But that makes fear, not excitement, or it just makes people think it's an efficiency thing, not a growth thing. I think that we're seeing more and more examples of where it can start to transform the healthcare system with the right guardrails,
Yes.
with the right human in the loop, but begin at scale to really improve things, which is surprising to me how adept it is at that. Now, I will say that's a deterministic model wrapped around generative AI models that are checking each other. So it's not, you know, Gen AI let loose, you know, without guardrails. But I'm excited about that, the way it can mimic some of the things that we've only thought humans could navigate for each other.
No, that's very exciting. How about you?
Yeah, I can give one that I thought was pretty fun. For those of you who have seen the movie Moneyball, or the Brad Pitt one.
Which movie?
Moneyball, where they looked at all the analytics of the baseball player. Like, we said, okay, why can't we do that for every job in the company? And so we took like our top 5% of sales reps, the ones that go to club every year for like 5 years straight, and say, what do they do every day, every week? And then how do we put that into an AI model? And then using generative AI and Agentic, give that to the masses of other salespeople to say, this is what great looks like. This is what's going to get you to club. And instead of them having to think about it, AI was actually creating the workflows. Then we did it for HR recruiters. We've done it for about 5 or 6 personas in the company. The adoption's been great because people see it's not threatening to them. It's back to that effectiveness point. It's more of like, here's what's going to make me a better performer in the company. So I am naturally motivated to listen to the AI because its outcome and its goal orientation is how to make you the top 5% performer in the company. So, and I think that's a really interesting thing from a change management standpoint. And back to the AI for growth or AI to improve the cost structure, I think it's an and. And I think there's AI for growth. How do we, you know, do more things for our customers? We really focused on, and I see this in our customers as well, this bimodal strategy. AI to drive growth, new products and services for our customers. I love the take a picture example that you just said. But then also I think about a big focus on the operational groups. And it's not so much reducing the cost structure as it is, how do we free up labor to do more of what we need these people to do? Like, I don't think there's a CEO on the planet who's woken up and said, we're serving our customers just good enough. We need less focus and less people serving our customers. AI can actually free up the people to help do that, which is an indirect way of fueling growth as well. And you can get that labor capacity out of the operational groups. And by the way, the people are happier too, right? They're not doing the like soul-crushing work, as my boss likes to say. They're actually doing something fun, which is serving the customer.
great. That's promising. What do you, Umesh?
I often find a lot of us, whether we're working in large companies or on, building companies ourselves or doing innovation, as human beings, we tend to overestimate the impact of these things in the near term. And that leads to us disappointing ourselves when that doesn't show up and the results are still stuck in a POC and this and that. Yeah. But right where that valley of disillusionment sets in, we also make the second big mistake, where we underestimate the impact of these things in the medium term. And I think, once again, I'm finding customers who maybe last year started 6, 7, 8 different POCs cycles and haven't seen the ROI yet. And those organizations and teams are beginning to feel deflated. And they're forgetting to re-architect themselves because they have no choice. If a peer of theirs is going to show a successful in-production example, which is going to drive either efficiency or massive growth, Wall Street has its way of forcing things on everybody. And the dominoes start to fall. So the companies that are already preparing for what's to come, the organizational changes, taking the big wins or cost out, et cetera, they're preparing for them to be the winners. And I think the one issue here is with agentic AI, everything that we've spoken of. Once again, next Monty Summit or the year after, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is just going to widen. Right. It's not going to be narrow. We won't be talking about these, one example here and one example there. We'll be talking about, complete changes of org designs because of agentic AI. Just in 12 months, by the time we meet for next Monty, the LLMs would be at a different place. Costs would have gone down. Adoption would have been sorted out. And the challenges would be organizational and not necessarily tech. And I think that's something to keep in mind for business leaders as they think about changing themselves. And at Uniphore, we are big believers on Uniphore. I force my engineering leadership each time we want to do something new, and they come back with 50 new headcount. I say, show me how much Gen AI have you used in our code generation or our own marketing. We are selling these marketing use cases. Why has my own demand gen cost not gone down per lead, et cetera? So, being good role models of adopting these within the company, getting agents set up within ourselves, and growing much more efficiently than our peers. That's truly what's going to drive the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
I know we're out of time, but I think that's a perfect way to close. I mean, it's inevitable. It's here. It's only going to become more pervasive, and it's a have or have-nots. And I think the agentic phase of this is going to be, we're already starting to see some exciting change here. So thank you for coming, everyone, and thank you all for being on the panel today. Appreciate it.